Hello, hello. It's a guy Kawasaki. I am in Santa Cruz, California. The rest of the remarkable people on the remarkable people staff, which is Peg and Jeff. So it's all three. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. The whole
That's right.
team is here. Mo, Larry, and Curly.
That's
Yep.
right.
And yeah, this week's guest was or is is what speech has had the most impact on you? Send that comment. Send a comment. Speech has had the most comment on you, and where you are located, because we like to know where we're talking to. So half of you are in India. I know that. So Peg, what have you got to say about this week's episode?
So interesting. Honestly, I can't imagine being a writer and having a president like standing next to you while you're writing,
Right.
trying to get the ideas out there. So the amount of pressure I think that any White House position has, of course, the president has so much pressure, but I think it's amazing the work that people do when they're there. So I have a lot of respect for what Cody did because that would take steely personality, I think.
And the funny thing that was brought out in this episode on that subject was that Barack said, "Yeah, I'm a good speechwriter. Like, I'm
Yeah.
good." It wasn't like, he needed him to help. He was like, I almost like, "I really don't need you, but you're here." I mean, you know what I mean? It was like he would tell them and
And that's
remind him
true.
that.
Yeah, I wrote this one by myself, you guys. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
And I love the part, although
right. But also they worked on them for so long too. Like the whole process was so interesting. So maybe he rehearsed for an hour, but they were writing it. The team was writing it. He was revising it for so long.
yeah, it
So
sounds
I think
it sounds
that
like
goes in.
sounds like
Go
there's
ahead.
literally thousands of person hours in a one.
See, can you imagine if you had a team of people writing your stuff and can I write your next speech? That would be great. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure. I only
Innovation,
need 10 points.
right? Hey, I have made your presentations before, and those were pretty good, by the way. Back in the days when Canva, you had to do it the hard way.
Yeah, you mean PowerPoint? I
No, I mean when I had to design all the elements
oh,
separately and then
oh, oh,
download them and then upload them because I insisted I was going to do it that way. So I did, and
those were the
now you don't
days.
have to. Yeah, now
I
it's so
I
easy.
have quit PowerPoint cold turkey.
Hmm.
I only use Canva for presentations now.
Canva is amazing for presentations. It really is. I mean,
Yeah,
and going from a blank screen, which is where I used to create presentations from, to now you can go in and there's like templates in there that you can use or just and the download. If you guys haven't tried Canva for presentations, you can download it right into the PowerPoint format, and it's not a static slide, which is what used to be the hard part for me because I would have to change each element. Remember that guy? I would be
yep.
like making the dots, and you'd be like, "Nope, I need a different one," and I would have to design the whole thing again and download it. But now, when you download the presentation, it actually puts all the individual elements into PowerPoint or Keynote, so you can move them around, which is amazing.
Also, you can do picture in picture. So you could have your
Mhm.
presentation as the background and you could
Yep.
be your face, download that. So now when you send people your presentation, you can actually be giving the presentation. You're not just
Yep.
depending on them clicking through slides.
And if you want an example, you can go check out Guy's YouTube channel because
Right.
there's
There's
a
a
video where he's doing
But there's a
that on
typo
there.
in that one.
Exactly.
Shit, there's a typo in that. God, I don't know how I didn't see that typo. That really
You
pisses
got to
me
give
off.
that up. You have to give it up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let
everybody,
it go.
this is what
Let it
Guy's
go.
working on this week. If you have a mistake, you have to let it go and you have to move on as a content creator. And Rich Benoit, who was a previous guest, said, he's like, I don't care, man. I just move on. So that's Guy's new mentality. And he's having a hard time.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Guy,
So here,
I want to know what.
wait.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Okay, quick one. So, okay, now here's another question for the audience. In the comments, I shot a video that's about 3 minutes long explaining the 10 slides you need in a presentation. And one of the slides has a typo in it at the headline level. Okay. It has two eyes instead of one eye in a word. So here's the question. Should I go and reshoot that video or do the peg method and just keep looking forward and forget it? It's, just don't even bother. So fix it or not?
And the number one way to get engagement on any post is to have a typo in it. So if you look
Yeah.
at it that way, you can say it was strategic. It
Because
was a
everybody goes and
strategic
has to comment
typo.
on it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, there's a typo. When you guys find the typo, leave a comment on the video and say, "Oh, I found it." Or if you didn't even see it, just say, "I didn't even notice" because you
Right.
were listening to Guy.
It's a Where's Waldo typo is what we're going to do.
Yep. Where's the typo?
So I wanted to know this question, Guy. Is like from the icebreaker from your point of view, what is like your speech that has made an impact on you? Because I know you speak all the time, but when you look at other speakers, is there one that you went, this guy is really good. I really like it.
Well, okay. I'm going to regret telling you the truth here, but, well, okay. If the question is which speech had the most impact on me, probably it was Steve Jobs announcing the Macintosh in 1984.
Mhm.
But I will tell you that as a speaker, and I used to speak pre-pandemic 50 to 75 times all over the world for huge audiences. I will tell you that I almost never ever watch another keynote speaker because I
Mhm.
figured out if I watch another keynote speaker and the speaker sucks, then I wasted my time. And if I watch another keynote speaker and the speaker is great, i.e., better than me, then I'll be depressed. So there's no upside in me watching any other keynote speaker.
Mhm. Which makes sense. I will say Arianna Huffington, though, I think you have seen part of hers before. You've done fireside chats with her
Yeah.
before. Arianna is very inspirational, and I mean, she's just she is truly an amazing woman, and she's
Yes.
done so much in her life. So her speeches, and she's so like uplifting and positive, and so she is, and she's so funny. So she is someone who she does a great speech. And Renee Brown, I saw Renee Brown at
Yeah.
Inbound, and she was amazing. I wish we could get her on the podcast. She's really
She's
also
good.
good, and she's not comfortable speaking, but now she's amazing at it because she started out with her TED Talk and she did it thinking no one's ever going to watch it. She was like, no one will ever see my TED Talk. It's not a big deal. And then, millions of people have seen it. So she's adjusted her scientific research background into, writing, and then speaking kind of goes with writing these days. So Renee is very good. She's really interesting.
So David says, I loved Admiral McRaven's UT graduation make your bed speech. So that's a good point. So I know you do research for people that you have on the show, Guy, like their TED Talks if they've done one. Do you watch TED Talks just for your, other than doing for the podcast? Do you just watch them just for fun, or is it always for research?
Nope. Everything is, I have singular focus. So, right now I'm preparing for interviewing John M. Chu, the director of Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights. So I watched his TED Talk. So the only time I watch TED Talks is when I'm reviewing a potential guest.
Gotcha.
I have to say his TED Talk is the only one I've ever watched. I literally got teary in his TED
Yeah.
Talk when he was talking about his family. It was just and
Yeah.
what pride means to him. It was a very touching TED Talk. Did you feel that? Did you think
Yeah.
it was? I mean, not that you cried, but did you feel
No.
the emotion of it though?
Yeah. Plus, I ate at his father's restaurant a lot.
Very cool.
So
That's cool.
maybe he busts my tables.
Oh wow.
Maybe.
I'm gonna ask him.
He's probably got home video of you eating.
The chicken salad at Chef Chu's was amazing.
That's funny.
Probably still is because he's still there.
Yeah.
So by the way, we need to take this time to thank our sponsor, Restream, because that's the way we're able to go live everywhere, bring everybody's comments in. You can, we can tell where they're coming from. We have a lot of LinkedIn people. We have YouTube. We can go to all these different places and bring them in and talk with you. So if you want to find out more, the link is in all the descriptions, I believe, that you guys can go check out Restream. So do not forget.
And a new thing this week is that we are streaming to some of my social channels and Jeff's. So if
we
you
are
on, yeah, that's a new Restream feature.
Oh
Is that
my
you can
God.
stream to the guests' channels as well. So if you are coming from my channels, please say hi in the comments and say, I came because I saw Peg's post or Jeff's post. So say hi to us.
Yes.
Because that is a brand new feature with Restream that not only streaming to the host, which is Guy, but also your guests. So imagine that is Guy's huge social channels plus mine and Jeff's, which I mean, come on, I'm just kidding. It's not like it's as many, but it still is exponential people
Right.
when you're adding more.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I have
Audiences.
some people. I have some people.
So-
Jeff has some people. We have people.
I hope people truly appreciate how powerful that is,
Mhm.
because I mean, if you had a really famous guest who had 25
Arianna
million,
Huffington.
yeah, if you had somebody with 25 million YouTube, followers, and you're live on your YouTube channel and their YouTube channel, holy cow, that is a big freaking deal. So,
Yeah.
and I think Restream is the only way you can be on your guest channel too, not just your own, right?
I think it's
Yeah.
I don't know of any other one that does a feature like that. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's
And
humongous.
being able to share people's audiences is huge for growing a live show, anything on social, but being able to, it's just amazing. So,
And
we
for
also,
Twitch, if you're a Twitcher or a YouTuber,
Yeah.
if you're doing games and you can any channels that you're doing,
yeah.
it's amazing to do that. Imagine if it was Google Plus, that would be like amazing.
And also,
What's Google Plus?
oh my gosh, that
It's
was,
where I used to
I
have
read a
the
book
most
about
followers.
it once. Yeah. I read a book about it.
What the plus?
And don't forget about the guys Ohana too, that you guys get reminders about the show. That's one of the things that we found that Peg and I have talked about a lot, is that, getting through these algorithms and being able to be reminded about shows. So if you want to know about this show where we talk about behind the podcast, make sure you text Guy here, and it's a pretty cool little service.
Yep.
And,
you gotta
and
be
did
in
you
US
come
or
here from a
Canada.
text? Did you come here from a text? Also say that in the comments. Let us know. Yes, I'm a text friend, because that's awesome.
Yeah. We have more questions. So
Okay.
let's see. What makes a good speaker, Guy? What do you think makes a good speaker?
I think by definition, a good speaker is a good storyteller. If you're a good storyteller, that's 90% of the battle.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
So what do you guys
I
think in the comments?
concur.
What makes a good speaker? Is it, if you think of the TED Talks, what are they, 15 minutes? Is that how the length of them are?
18.
12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Oh,
18.
18?
18.
John says
Yeah.
12. He must have gone fast. So here's the interesting thing about that comment, though, Guy. After, so for a little background story, way back in the day, Guy and I did a tour of South America working with Motorola, and Guy did speeches all over. So I got to see Guy present like a lot of times in 1 month. So I got to
Poor
hear,
thing.
and I already no, it was as a speaker, it helped me a lot. And one of the things that I noticed is your stories, because you are a really great storyteller. Like in conversations, your stories are always funny and they're really good. And when I talked to you about it after, it was one of the things when we were flying home, and I said that you didn't feel like you were a good storyteller, but you are a great storyteller.
Well, thank you. So,
But do you feel like you are now, though? Like, I'm just asking, like, because at the
Yeah.
time, like, you felt like you were like, I don't know. But I mean, that's what people love, is your stories.
well, I've gotten over that. So,
Now you feel like you can tell a story?
well, let's just say that imposter syndrome is not one of my problems.
It wasn't that. It was, I don't know. I had
Right.
something that I was thinking I was going to write about you being a storyteller, and I actually just found it in a journal, which is weird. I was taking it. It's in my Motorola journal, which is in the other room from one
You
of those
know,
events.
my best memories. This is the Pagan Guy South American tour.
Hmm.
We must have gone to every purse store in South America. Seriously,
It's true.
we went
We
to a
did. We
lot
went
of
to a
bag
lot.
stores.
Guy needed a new purse. Is that what it was?
No,
Well, Beth got some new purses.
yeah, it would be like, some people buy, I don't know what they buy. We bought purses. We bought
We
purses in
bought
every
purses.
country in South America.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
one airport had great purses.
So,
Yeah.
Except for Mexico, I got a shawl that's a silk woven shawl with butterflies on it, and Jane Goodall has the same one because she
No.
wears it.
wow.
It's true.
Also, yes.
It was really it was for me. It was a big splurge because it's like it's velvet on the inside and silk. But I figured that's like a once in a lifetime purchase.
That was the first guest Jane Goodall was, right? Wasn't she the
Yep.
first?
Yeah.
And she's the only
Yeah.
one who's been asked. Well, no,
Bob Cialdini.
who's been twice too. So,
Mhm.
so we asked this question: what makes a good speaker? And we have some people who have answered. And Catalina says, knowing your audience, empathy,
Mhm.
which I think
That
that is
helps.
true. And someone else says, someone who keeps the audience interested. A good speaker
Yep.
connects with the audience. But this was a good question from Moath. He goes, do you still feel crowd anxiety, Guy? Do you get nervous anymore before you speak?
Well, I do use the bathroom right before I go on stage every time, but am I nervous in the sense that I'm throwing up and I'm, peeing in my pants? No. I don't get me wrong. It's not any speaker who tells you that they're not nervous or they're not a little anxious and they're worried about how it's going to come out and tells you that's not true of them. They're a freaking liar. They're either a liar or delusional.
Right.
So it's just, it comes with the territory. I mean, I'm sure that, before Tom Brady goes out,
Right.
takes the first snap from the center, he's nervous. I mean, it's a lot of pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that you don't realize when you want to be a speaker, though. Like there can always be tech problems.
right.
So you
And they
always
usually are.
have to have your own stuff because I have fixed my own tech 50% of the time, even though there's professionals there. Like something's wrong with a presentation. The fonts don't load in because they want to move it on a different computer or just there's so many things that you can't
I-
ever just go somewhere. Plus, you're rolling up like what Guy does when he travels all around the world. You're literally getting off a plane, going somewhere. You don't know anyone at all. You've probably emailed them. You roll up to this location. There's all these people you don't know that are there. But the biggest thing that I've always found as a speaker is that everyone there wants you to succeed and
Yep.
wants you to be interesting. So you have to like take that pressure off yourself and say, okay, just take a breath. You're here, you don't know these people, but then you have the other scary factor where people are like taking video and taking photos, and you have to like turn that piece off too, because
Right.
it's weird to think about all those things.
When we were interviewing Cody, I completely agree, Peg, that when you are a speaker, everybody wants you to succeed, except in politics, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
right. So, when you're making a State of the Union, 51 of those senators want you to screw up. They want you to fail. They want you to say something stupid, right? They want you to fail. And,
Right.
I mean, some of those videos where you see, what's the former Speaker of the House from Minnesota or Wisconsin? That's
Not
that's
possible.
got
How
that's
long
got
ago are you talking about?
before
Tipper? No,
no, recent.
Oh.
Anyway, so can you imagine? I think that's one of the hard jobs of a politician is the opposite party's president is giving the State of the Union, and you're sitting there and you got to act like, well, you don't want to act happy because it's the enemy, and you don't want to act disinterested because CNN will say, oh, "Look at him, he's picking his nose right now."
He's texting.
That's
Maybe
a
Hillary
hard.
on her phone.
His
I
hair
love that
coloring is
meme
starting
of-
to drip down his.
Yeah, well,
Oh my
there's
God,
that
was
too.
hysterical.
Yes. Yes,
I love
yes.
the meme of Hillary though when she's like looking at her phone and she's all like, that one was funny.
So
Yeah. Go ahead,
I was
John.
going to say, we got some more comments. I want to bring up Elisa Meredith says a good speaker thinks about the audience instead of themselves as a bonus. That
Mm-hmm.
helps with nerves. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
point.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question, though, this is a good one. How long
Mm-hmm.
should speeches be? Like in today's day and age?
Mm.
Is it
You
going to
mean
change
virtual
after COVID?
speech? I
Yeah.
I think a virtual speech limit is 25 minutes.
Mine are always as long as they tell me to make them. They say the hour ones are harder though. Like when you have
Yeah.
a
Oh, it's
whole
impossible.
hour and you have to. I've done it. The last one I did was an hour, and it was a pretty good one. I had like 60 slides because I had like
Oh my God.
examples, and it was good. People loved it.
This is this is the 60-60-30 rule of Peg, not the 10-20-30 rule
No,
of Guy.
no.
Right.
Well, you tell stories. I did learn how to do that from you, though. I did learn how to do just one idea, and then you say all the stuff, and nothing is on there. But if you're teaching technical, mine was about Instagram, so I had to
Oh,
show examples and stuff.
Right.
So that's
oh.
a
So
little.
you had real content.
I had some content. It wasn't just stories, but I also told stories.
So Elisa said she remembers. She goes, "Oh my word, Peg! I remember the time your slides didn't work
Mhm.
at all, and you hardly missed a beat." That was. I remember. I was in the audience in that one too. You just went,
Where?
That
"Okay,
was
this is what is going to happen."
90 minutes. I did a
Was that
90-minute workshop with 0 slides.
is this social media marketing world?
Yeah.
Yep.
South by Southwest? Where was it?
No, it was social media marketing world. Yeah, I did a
Huh.
whole. It was an
It was a
hour and a half
workshop. It
with
was
no
a workshop.
slides.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's crazy.
It was
So,
good. It was still good.
so Carol goes, "What was your biggest aha moment as a speaker? Like,
Mm,
was there something that you went, oh, I need to start doing that now, or
mm.
oh, I went too long? Was there any for you, Guy? When was is there an aha moment you had?
Well, I don't know if this qualifies, but once I was speaking in Kansas City, and right before I went on, I got a migraine headache. And this migraine headache, this was not just, the oral visual stuff. This was, head splitting, pounding a nail in your head migraine. And so I couldn't even stand up. So I got a chair and I gave the speech. And I learned that even with a migraine, the show must go on. That was an aha
Mhm.
moment for me.
It's true because you're paid and you were there and you
Yep.
got to do it. The show must go on, as we say in theater. And
Yeah.
it's true. My favorite speaker moment was I did a conference called Bark World, and it was dogs. It was all dogs and owners. It was
What?
people who want to be pet influencers. And I
What?
had a goal. I had dogs in the audience that were listening, and I was like, "Wow, even dogs are listening." It was so cute. There was like a golden retriever. It was just sitting there, and it was like learning how to use Instagram. It was amazing.
Mm.
Wow,
It's true.
that's funny.
It is funny.
So, this is a great one from Catalina says this. What do you do when you actually feel like you're losing your
Mm,
audience? That's a great
good
I
question.
question.
never lose my audience.
Well, for us mere mortals, Peg, what do you do?
I can't relate to that question.
I have had times when you know where it happens at conferences when they book things too close together and you see
Hmm.
people looking at the time to get up and leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really hard, and you're like maybe they're really interested in what you're saying. I try not to take that personally because I know that they paid a lot to be they paid a lot to be there and they're trying to
Yeah.
rush to the next thing. So I try to like not take it personally and
I thought of
I
a
don't
better
know. It
answer.
is hard. Okay.
Okay, so the question is, what do you do when you feel like you're losing the audience? My new answer is, I tell them I have a migraine. How's that?
Okay, then they'll be like, "Me too. I gotta go."
What the hard
No,
part?
but I mean, we've all had that happen though, where you're booked, where conferences really booked. Maybe you haven't, Guy, because you're keynote. But even at the big ones, sometimes
Oh
people
yeah.
are getting up to run out when.
Well,
Well,
I got to tell you, if you have any say in the decision about the logistics of a speech, the worst thing in the world is to have a room that's 50, 60, 70% empty. So
Mm,
I would rather have 3,000 people in a 2,500 seat auditorium than 5,000 people in a 10,000 seat auditorium, right? It's the percentage. You want the room to be crowded. You don't care what the room size is. You just, the percentage is what matters. Because I got to tell you, as a speaker, when I look out and freaking half the seats are empty, that definitely affects me mentally. Even if it has, you know, even if there's 3,000 people, but if there's 4,000 empty seats, it's hard. Sucks you down. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have another great example for this. Wait before we move on, Jeff. One time when Guy and I were at South by Southwest speaking, a fire alarm went off in the middle of our presentation, and so it was like, should we leave or should we not leave? And their audience, we had a huge pack. I mean, it was packed, and people were like, "We're not leaving, we're staying." So we kept going. And funny. Some people did leave, but we kept going anyway, and it was fine. But people were like, we don't want to lose our seats. What will happen? Because you do get FOMO with those kind of events. So when there's a fire alarm, maybe it's not the best advice, but we kept going.
Yeah, that's probably
maybe. I wouldn't want my kids
not
to
safety
that,
first, right there.
Yeah.
So this is a great one from Connie. She goes, speaking right before lunch. Oh my! So that is true. Like. Keynotes, you don't usually have to deal with that, but that, or even the first session after lunch when everyone's sleeping.
2 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch has hit in and people have been running around all day is like the dead zone.
What's even worse than that, I think, is, and I had to do this a couple times in social media marketing world, is be the last session before the keynote, because everybody gets up and wants to get a good seat for Guy speaking, and you're like, and the door goes bang, bang, bang when they're leaving. Yep. That's not good.
I would say even worse is the last speech of the last day.
Oh, yeah.
Because, half the audience is, people are wondering, oh man, am I going to make my flight? And, all this kind of stuff. And I tried to implement a policy where you have to pay me more to be the last speaker on the last day, because a lot of events are trying to say, okay, Guy, we want to save you for the end so people stay and we end on an up note. But oh my God, last speaker, last day is the toughest slot. Easiest slot is opening speaker, opening day, because everybody's all hyped and they're not hungover yet. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Hungover day 2 and day 3. Some people look at conferences like as they're at the pool drinking all day. Like I've seen that. I don't know who those people are. I don't know who's paying for their conferences, but
I know.
I go to as many sessions as I can. Even as a speaker, I'll go. But yeah, there's a lot of tough spots.
We've got a lot of great questions from the audience, so I want to make sure we try to get some of these.
Do you see how much better this is with 3 of us?
Okay. How does a typical 30 minutes before a pitch or a speech look like? What does that look like for you, Guy? Are you like, do you listen to rap music and are you kind of doing some airboxing? What does it look like right before a speech for you?
I'm checking email and using the bathroom. Sometimes at the same time.
What about you, Peg?
Way too much information. I hope I never get email before you have a speech.
Oh, guys,
I'll take a selfie.
No, thanks. I'm usually, usually getting the tech set up. There's always that tech, making sure. And then as a female speaker, you always have that awkward time when they're trying to put a microphone up your dress, which is never good. I'm dating several sound people around the country. Just I'm always like, are we dating now, or do I get dinner?
Easy there.
I'm never going to wash that microphone.
Mm-hmm.
You should see. It's not very comfortable. I mean, it's weird. It's a very weird part of being a speaker that guys don't have to deal with.
So, but I noticed something Peg did, and I started copying for all my talks. Is I go before the presentation starts. I got already mic'd up and everything, and you're usually just sitting around waiting. Is I go and talk to the audience. Like I'll go for every single section.
I learned that from Guy.
And it makes me feel comfortable, and then it also makes them. Those are people I can look at during because they're usually smiling because they feel like there's a connection, and there is a connection. So
I have said what you just said word for word to people. I think that is great advice. And the people who take themselves way too seriously as speakers, and these are the ones who have a personal assistant, and their personal assistant has a personal assistant, and there's security, and there's a PR person, and there's a PR person for the PR person. So they travel with this entourage. And there are some people's speaking agreements that says that, you cannot make eye contact with the speaker and you cannot speak to the speaker. Like, what kind of bullshit
Yeah.
is that? Literally, the contract says you are not to talk to,
The
whoever.
talent.
And yeah. And I am this such a dumbass bullshit thing.
It is.
Yeah. But going back all the way full circle to the podcast episode that dropped today is there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you could tell that he loathed writing the State of the Union because of all the work
Yes.
that he had to do and locked the different versions and stuff. But he is a very cool, laid back. It seemed like in the interview, it was just really, really cool. So
Yeah.
it was a good interview, and there's a lot of insights for speakers in this episode as well.
Well, I mean, if you're going to listen to somebody about speaking and speech writing,
Right.
Barack Obama's speechwriter would be a good place, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be trying to figure out who Donald Trump's speechwriter is. So,
I loved that. I loved when Cody talked about how President Obama, when he was at the beginning of his politics, he worked with someone on giving speeches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
you got a coach.
that's something that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but he's so smart. He's very strategic because you got to be good at it.
So Daniel, Daniel asked this question, Guy. He goes, "How long do you typically prepare for a speech?"
oh, I hate this question. Okay, so if you, the honest answer, if for a particular speech, 15 minutes. But
yeah,
wait, there's more. But the true answer, which is what he's getting at, is more like 30 years. So because I've been doing this for 30 years and I really know my subjects, I can do it in 15 minutes. So it's 15 minutes and 30 years. And I'm also,
also
I'm only giving one of 4 or 5 speeches.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Like you have a certain group that you do, and then you customize them. So you might be giving the art of innovation, but then you're going to be talking in North Carolina. So you always add some North Carolina things, and
not unless
you don't
they
anymore?
change their bathroom policy.
Okay. Well, New York, you're going to New York, and just saying, like you customize them. But there's the initial work. I think people underestimate how long it takes. Like when someone hires you to do a 30-minute or 45-minute speech, there's a lot that goes into that, especially if it's when there's travel. So you're traveling. So that's 2 days of travel time. You have to get there the night before. You're there the day of. And then getting everything ready, getting the tech ready, checking everything.
Well,
For me, it takes a lot longer to make them.
But plus, it is literally the 30 years. I mean, this is like saying to, an ophthalmologist, well, why is it so expensive to get LASIK? It only took 15 minutes. Okay, so, go get some asshole on the street to cut open your eye. I mean, if you...
Wow.
Yeah.
True.
So Lisa says this. She goes, "I learned that from Jeff, who learned it from Peg, who learned it from Guy." So this is about talking to friends. The thing that I, talking about how long it takes to put something together is that, like, because a lot of times when you're not doing a keynote, you have specific topics you're talking about. And so, like, one of the good things is the collaboration. Like, I will send my slides to Peg. Peg will send her slides to me. We'll look over them, and she'll go, like, cut that out because that doesn't make any sense, or that looks horrible. Or I'll say, hey, add this joke that was really funny over there. And so having those,
never have jokes.
Yes, you do. When you have the group that you can bounce stuff off of, it makes a big difference, I think, in your speech.
Yep.
I know you guys are going to find this hard to believe, but I have to leave to give a speech. I'm giving a speech in 20 minutes for Rackspace.
Okay. Yep.
So,
okay.
Thank you very much you guys can continue on. So remember this
well, we
week's
can
guest
wrap the questions up. We'll wrap the other questions from the audience up.
Okay. So Cody Keenan, speechwriter for Barack Obama. And this live session is sponsored by Restream, which now you can access your guests' followers, which is totally wonderful. Yes. And so I must bid you a fond farewell because I'm going to give a keynote speech for Rackspace right now. So take care, everybody. Bye.
Now, I don't
Do we
know
have
what
any
happens.
more questions, Jeff? Are we done with that?
We pretty much did. I mean, let me pull them up here. Let's see here. and he's just. I guess we're still. Let me see if I can hang up right here. Let me see what happens. Okay.
Oh.
Let's
That's
go
funny.
to this, and then I will come and I will be added to. Nope, that didn't work. So
Oh, there's a good question here.
what's that?
Ebenezer said, "How do you deliver your speech when earlier speakers seem to have partly taken the wind out of your sail?" So that's an interesting one when you are speaking at a conference. I've also had somebody say contradicting information from what you're sharing.
Oh, I remember
And
when.
so
Sorry.
if you could say yours after, if you give a speech and the earlier speakers kind of took the wind out of it, if you know that and you saw theirs, maybe you can adjust yours, or sometimes I'll just refer to it and I'll say, maybe you saw so and so speak earlier and he mentioned blah blah, and I just want to reinforce that I also. So just kind of like acknowledge the other expert and keep going.
So
I
I
think you don't have to be the only expert in the room. I think people who try to be the only expert set themselves up for failure.
so I remember one time when you were speaking, and you do Q&A at the end a lot of times, and somebody got
Mhm.
up and remember it was, and they almost wanted to pick a fight with you, and you were just like, I'm not going to answer this right now. We can talk about it in the how, but you need to be ready for. I remember that really good
Yeah,
because
I I know. I'm trying to think. It was a Pinterest thing, I think.
yeah, but then they were trying to get up and like it was very antagonistic, and they were trying to,
It was
and she
one of the.
started
I know
pitching,
it's
and she pitched,
yeah, yeah.
so not
It was
cool,
yeah, it was something, and I can't remember something I really disagreed with, and I was like, nope, nope,
right?
nope. Okay, well, I'll talk to you after. But yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you do get those people. I mean, that's the thing is about social media or innovation or technology is that everybody has an opinion. So they
So
might
let me
disagree with you.
run through the other questions. Oh, we're gonna
Yep.
take this off here. Let's see. When he disappears, it throws everything off. So we asked, how long should speeches be? The other one was, we talked about this a little bit. How should you use slides in your
Yep.
presentation? I am not as anti slides as Guy. I use mine to tell
Mhm.
stories and have funny like things that hit the
Right.
audience. But I think the point of not relying on your slides is a big deal because you had them not work, but you're still able to
Right.
go forward with it. So
But I really did need them for that. So it depends on if you're doing like a TED kind of talk, if you're doing like
right,
a inspirational thing, and you can just have up a few slides and then do all the talking. You never want to read off of your slides, but sometimes you need examples. So depends on what you're doing. If you're really, teaching something and you need examples and people want to see examples, then that's different. But if you're just doing storytelling, it's actually really great just to like have a slide come up. The Bark World one, for example, I think I mostly just had like a photo up and then I just talked about the thing. And then when you have just a few slides, it just keeps your stories on track. If
yeah.
they're little place markers for your stories.
So Valerie asked this question: will this be recording stay on or as a link on LinkedIn? Yes, it will still. It stays on all the social channels, and we are using Restream
Yes.
to go out everywhere to YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. What else did I miss?
Hmm.
Is that it? Okay, yeah. So that was that question. So how long should your slides? And then this one was, what do you do with your hands while you're talking? I really want to know what Guy was going to say about this one,
He
but
talks with his hands a ton, so he
yeah,
probably doesn't pay attention to it. And he'll also lean on the podium, and
right,
he does all kinds of stuff. He's very animated, and I know that because I'm always trying to like take a picture, or it's better to make a GIF of him because he's always moving and stuff. I use my hands a lot, and Jeff likes to take my photos later and make like
funny,
sparks coming
yeah,
out or spells or things because I'm always like, and
yeah,
blah blah blah. So
yeah.
in case you guys didn't know, Jeff and I are both theater people. So yeah.
So this is a great question from Daniel. In your earlier days of speaking, how did you manage the rush of emotions that
Mm,
blocks your thoughts? I don't think Guy
mm.
ever had that, but
He did.
did he? Did he have like
Yeah, he had to learn how to be a speaker.
right?
So
Everybody,
in the
yeah,
beginning, in the beginning, and then he wanted to, everybody was watching Steve Jobs, who was like the greatest, product launcher of all time. So
right,
there was a lot of pressure. So Guy did have that in the beginning, but he worked on it. He's been giving speeches for so many years now
right.
that he worked through it.
And I think it's what you have to learn to do because and like Guy said, anybody who tells you they don't get nervous before, even for these live shows, we get nervous before we
Hmm.
go on. But
Hmm.
it's being able to channel that pressure into performing, and it's just like
And preparing.
yeah,
Honestly, it's
yeah,
preparing too. Like, um, really knowing your content. Like these people who show up to a conference and did their slides the night before and are still working on it right before. I'm sorry, but there's no way that their presentation is going to be as good as somebody who made theirs weeks ahead and has been rehearsing it. Maybe
Right.
theirs is super fresh on their mind, and everybody works differently. I totally get that. But if something happens to your slides, how are you going to remember and do it?
Right.
So I say at the beginning when you're learning, just really prepare. Don't prepare so much that it's stale, because I worry about that sometimes. Like if I go over it too much, I get kind of bored with the content, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm on my, 10th year of doing Cats on Broadway or something. I don't know. You don't want it to be stale, but you want to
Right.
just make sure you really know it and you're comfortable.
Yeah, you don't want to be up there acting like you're reciting, like the Gettysburg Address that you had to memorize when you were a kid or whatever. You want to have
Right.
it
Or
flow.
reading.
Yeah.
You don't want to read off your slides. So if you're nervous, use that little speaker view and put notes that the audience can't see, and practice using that version of
Right.
Keynote or PowerPoint when you can have the slide, but you can have a little note on there. So if you're nervous, write it in there. And then be really sneaky and write yourself little notes like take a breath right now. Actually, taking a breath and drinking water are two really good things to do if you're feeling nervous.
So,
Did you ever do that, Jeff?
yes.
See,
So
Jeff was nervous to answer, so he
I
coughed.
coughed. So no, I won't drink anything. I'll drink water and stuff, but I won't drink anything until my thing is over. Like even if somebody offers me wine or something before the show, I'm like, no, I don't. I just that's a
no.
rule. I don't do it until after my point is done. The other thing that I do that's been super helpful is that I go and I record my talk audio, and I use an app called Overcast. That's how I listen to all my podcasts. I'm able to upload to Overcast, and then I'll listen to it over and over and over as I go to on the plane or whatever like that. So I'll listen to it in that way. So that helps me get comfortable with the speech, how I want to tell a story, that kind of stuff. So that's how I use it to prepare.
Yeah, it's good to, and then you can time it out too, depending on where you are. I don't know who just put that long thing in there, but
Yeah, it is really long. I don't know what it is, but
you
somebody
might get
says,
deleted for that, buddy. So
yeah. Carol says it's not a speech; it's a story. I love that. That's very, very true. So, yeah. Lisa says she doesn't have any caffeine. So I think we'll see. That was we'll do with your hands.
some people hype it up with caffeine, and that's
yeah.
I don't
get
really
jittery.
need to do that either.
Yeah. And the last
I'm
question
hyper
is,
enough.
how important is entertainment speech? You said you don't ever have jokes, which I know is not true because you've had some good stories in there that you've told before.
Yeah, but I make those up on the fly. Those are always like,
But it's
not in
still
my
entertaining.
slides.
It's still entertaining. So for you guys in the
plan.
audience, how important is entertainment in a speech? Like, not ha-ha, stand-up comedian, but do you want do you want to have that peaks and valleys, which I think makes a good speech, is not just flat the entire time, not just giving information the entire time, but like some of our comments before is like, it's a story, it's storytelling.
Right.
How important is that? So
Entertainment's so important. It needs to be educational. It needs to be funny, endearing, and you need to show your personality. There's a lot that needs to go into it. So
Right.
I think entertainment is very important. You can even look at different SNL openers.
Right.
Like some guests are so good, and some people are so nervous that they
right,
can't
you can
even.
tell.
Yeah, I mean that is a really hard gig to get up there. You are on live TV on one of the most popular shows. So that would be scary as heck.
Yeah.
But I'm available, Lauren, if you need.
Yeah,
me to be
that's
on.
right. Well, you can be on Schmigadoon. Carol says, I presented as the audience was drinking. I never knew I was funny until then. Yeah, you become a riot when everyone's drunk. Yeah, so it's very funny.
That is funny.
So that's pretty much all our questions. Do not forget this week's episode that dropped this morning of the Remarkable People the podcast at remarkablepeople.com. It's Obama's speechwriter. It's amazing. Tons of behind the scenes stuff, how he writes, even like his tools that he uses. We didn't even get into like what he uses to compose his speeches on, how he does it.
People
I'm
have
not
to go
going
listen.
to. Yeah, they have to listen to the podcast. So make sure you guys go do that. Share that to a friend, somebody who is into speaking or into, writing. This is a great episode to listen to. Do not forget this Ohana, guys, Ohana at 1
Which means family in
right.
Hawaiian.
That's right. I watched Mona. 831-609-0628.
It's Moana.
I know. That's why I said it to see what you do.
I would correct you. That's what I would do.
I know.
So, hey, you guys, thanks so much for all your questions and
Yeah.
comments. Super awesome. And if you have more, I'll check stuff out later. I'll put links, but you could check out the podcast at remarkablepeople.com. And thank you, of course, to the sponsor, Restream, for letting you stream all over the place. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool to test it, streaming in lots of
Yeah.
places.
Yeah. And with that, we'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.